Hello and welcome back to the Puncher's Chance podcast, and welcome to the review show where we have a look back at last weekend's boxing. And Anto Cacace and James Dickens treated us to a high-level contest, I think it would be fair to say. Maybe not the most entertaining, not Definitely. As entertaining as maybe we hoped it would be, but I still really enjoyed it. And wow, Cacace is continuing on that Indian summer that he started up against Joe Cordina.
Well, we talked about it last week, didn't we, about both of them sort of peaking at the back end of their career, and that's what they've certainly been doing over the last couple of fights. And yeah, Cacace, another sort of dominant performance, if you can call it that. I thought he started slowly, but built into the fight wonderfully, and sort of the latter stages of the fight, you were thinking, wow, fair play to him. And you talk about that India summer and all that. He's been from that Cordina fight, Warrington, Lee Wood, now James Dickens and all that. That's come with that.
That's four bona fide world champions.
It's an incredible run, isn't it? And I don't think he perhaps gets the credit for that run. And all right, there's still question marks around that Cordina fight that a lot of boxing fans has. But against Warrington, against Wood, clear winners and all that. And I think on Saturday night, as much as I thought the fight was competitive, I did think Cacace won by 4 rounds. It was that sort of fight.
Really?
I think, yeah.
I had it the same scorecard. I think it was Cacace by 2.
Don't agree with Carl Frampton's scorecard.
No.
I thought he was going to say that.
I had it, I think, Cacace by 2, but there was the third round, which I think could have gone either way, and that would have had it 1 round to Cacace. So I actually think it was a really close fight on the scorecards without, I think the ones that Cacace won, he won.
Yeah, and I think with the closer rounds as well that they had, they probably went with Cacace with the crowd, and you know, it was quite weird because the atmosphere seemed to, we're going to get onto it now in a little bit with Pearce O'Leary, but the atmosphere seemed to take a dip in the fight. But I think that's because of, it was a high level fight. It was a world title fight. Both men are really good technicians in their sort of, in that division. And yeah, it was as we said, they're both at that point in their careers now where, well, for Cacace, I think he's the sort of fighter that just wants those big paydays, I think. And James Dickens perhaps wants world title fights, says a lot with him going to Istanbul to win that belt. But both of them have got a lot left to give in this sport. It's not like this is going to be their last sort of big hurrah. There's still a number of fights that they can have moving forward. And I think after Saturday night, that's exciting for both of them as well. Yeah,
I think, 34 and 37, they're no spring chickens, but it was a proper chess match. I think the reason it was maybe not so entertaining and then the crowd maybe fell a little bit flat was that they just kind of negated the best of each other, and there was a constant kind of jump back and forth. And really, I think what won Cacace the fight in the long run was the range and how he used it, particularly with that reverse 1-2. So leading with the backhand, obviously with Dickens as a southpaw, and then following it up with that lead hook, which he used quite a lot, with Dickens kind of falling over his front foot with it. It was such a high level fight, and probably higher level than I expected, actually. And I think, I don't mean that in a discredit to either men, but I think you've got this idea when you see a British world champion, albeit, obviously Cacace, having Irish and Dickens being, Scouse not British, as they always say. But, British world champions, you imagine them being kind of tough and sturdy and brave, but actually it was as high level a world title fight as there is out there.
I don't even think we needed that sort of back and forth action. They're both at that level, as you just said, of they can just go at it for 12 rounds. And I feel like both of them, as we got to the 8th and 9th round, they had so much left.
Do you know what I loved as well is the first, I think 4 or 5 rounds, there was words exchanged at the end of every single round
as well.
And there was, particularly Cacace he had a smile on his face throughout, and he kept getting caught with the head and stuff, and he was getting a bit frustrated with that.
Cut,
but
didn't he?
it was just, it just felt like a fun fight and a really enjoyable one. If not the most entertaining, and I was so impressed with Cacace. I think, like you say, he said that he wants those kind of legacy fights, but also I think moreover, I think he deserves them. Absolutely. If it's Navarrete, absolutely deserving wherever that may be, get that payday. And actually, you say get that payday, but with what he's done, you'd say he has every shot at winning that fight.
I think both of them after Saturday night has that sort of, you can make a shout for them to beat Navarrete. But I tell you what, Ryan Garner was on this undercard. sort of keep me warm sort of style of fight. And there's now a lot of talk about him fighting Cacace in St. Mary's in Southampton in the summer.
It just doesn't make sense for Cacace. I mean, it makes absolute sense for Ryan Garner. You know,
if the money's right, though.
No, I don't think so.
Cacace does it.
I don't think so at all.
He does.
I really don't think so.
Really?
I think at that stage of your career, at 37, with everything he's done, and you look at the kind of fights he's been having, I think. I mean, he said it in the post fight as well. He said, with all due respect to Ryan Garner, you're an up and coming fighter. I'm looking for legacy. And he called out the likes of O'Shaquie Foster and Navarrete, which are the two kind of American payday fights at the top of the division.
I don't think they're big paydays though for him. I think Ryan Garner's a bigger payday than them two. I think
a unification fight against a bona fide world champion pays better than Ryan Garner. No chance it does.
I don't know, because he vacated a belt mine, didn't he? To fight Lee Wood, Cacace.
Yeah, the IBO, I think it was.
To fight Lee Wood, and what was that for? That wasn't for legacy.
It was the IBO world title, different to the WBA.
But lots of people recognise that as a
I think a unified world title fight against the pull of someone like O'Shaquie Foster and Navarrete, whether that be in somewhere like Saudi Arabia, I think most likely it would end up in a Ring Magazine card. I think you'd be looking at that and saying, yeah, that's a much bigger payday and a much bigger legacy fight.
So you're against a British stadium fight?
I'm not against it, but I don't think it happens. I don't think it happens. I think, you know, if I'm talking as a British boxing fan, which fight do I want to see? Yeah, absolutely. Give me Cacace, Ryan Garner. Ryan Garner deserves a shot at a world title. I think style-wise, I think it'd be a really entertaining fight. I just don't see it happening.
It should though. I think that's what will happen next. I think that was the purpose.
Even if he actively disparaged it in the ring after the fight, Ryan Garner stood ringside.
I'm not being funny.
Nah, no offense, not today.
In the sort of the part in his career now where he's at is all about making as much money as possible. He's won a world title, so whether I honestly think that he'll make a better payday if he goes to Southampton, beats that away corner fighter like he did against Lee Wood in Nottingham, I want to say it was, and do that instead of, you know, traveling over to the States and being in a tougher fight. That's an easier fight for him. You know, big payday, less, you know, risk.
I don't think he stands to gain anything from beating Ryan Garner, because I think
apart from his bank account being a lot better than what it would if he went to America.
There's no chance.
I think, okay. Let us know.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what people think. But, you know, as far as I'm concerned, a unification fight pays better than someone who hasn't got a title around their waist. Undoubtedly, but we'll have to wait and see on that.
We have to. We'll agree on something.
Beyond that, another man who picked up a world title in the form of the IBO, but also has some big fights and big nights ahead of him, is Pearce O'Leary. I thought he has been impressive. I've been impressed every time I've seen him. And against Maxi Hughes, it wasn't Mark Chamberlain like we hoped it was going to be beforehand, but I think even with that, you look at it and you go, yeah, that's an impressive performance.
He was fighting in Dublin. I think I talked about earlier about the atmosphere. It seemed like everyone was there for one man, and that was Pearce O'Leary on Saturday night. Bless you. Or was that a cough?
Yeah, cough, don't worry.
Okay. They were all there for him on Saturday night. And I feel like with that comes with pressure, but Pearce O'Leary seemed to be on a mission on Saturday night. You could have put anyone in there. You could have even put, hypothetically speaking, you could have put Tyson Fury in there, Anthony Joshua in there, and Pearce O'Leary, the way he approached the fight, wouldn't have lost it. If you can understand that sort of analogy, you know, if Tyson Fury was in there, he probably would beat him, but
he would have gone out swinging.
Exactly, and he would have gone out with, you know, his head up and all that. But I feel like with Pearce O'Leary, there's a sort of coming of age. I think against Mark Chamberlain, he would have got a lot more plaudits if he did that against Chamberlain than he has against Maxi Hughes, because I feel like everyone's talking about after this fight now that, you know, Maxi Hughes is at that point in his career where that's it. Whereas Mark Chamberlain, a bit like Cacace and Dickens, has still got a lot to give, and there's still a lot in the tank for Chamberlain. So that fight could be made, you know, later down in the rounds. But I think it was great corner work from Hughes's. You know, that you could see where this was going. As the fight was playing out, you thought, this isn't going the distance. You know, this is sort of going to be the fight where you're listening in between rounds to see what the messaging is. Are we going to give him one more round? Are we going to give him another two? Let's see what he does in this round and then maybe make the decision. And when they did make that decision, I went, good. Because I think that's what they had to do. Otherwise, it was a straight one-way traffic. And especially for a fighter like Maxi Hughes that has, given us so many great fights in the past, we want him to go out on his accord and not have Pearce O'Leary stop him and, have all that sort of danger that comes after getting a stoppage loss. But it was a dominant performance, a spiteful one as well.
Yeah. So when Maxi Hughes came back to the corner, Warrington and his old man already looked a bit worried, and they sort of said, "How you doing?" And I might have read his lips, but it sounded like he said, "I can't hear anything," was what it sounded like. And it might have been because he said he couldn't see anything because his eye was quite swollen. But they straight away went, "Yeah, nah, let's not do this today." And like you say, it was spiteful from Pearce O'Leary, and it's just it was really impressive. It's the speed and, like you say, the sort of the spite behind those combinations. When he lets his hand go, it's not tap setups. It is every shot has the aim of taking your head off. And yeah, he's a really exciting fighter in terms of what,
Didn't you watch him at a show?
Yeah,
once?
I watched him at the Magnificent 7 card back in December.
Okay.
It would have been
he was
Bentley Paul's was the main event.
He was on early though that night.
He was on relatively early, and he was very, very good again on that night. He's been good every time I've watched him, but I think, you look now and I don't know what's next in terms of a setup fight. I think Maxi Hughes is the kind of opponent that anyone would see as a sort of gatekeeper to the world level. So, do you look to give him someone like, you got Dalton Smith in that division? I don't think the Shakur Stevenson fight makes sense. But, who does against Shakur Stevenson? But, I think he very much is ready to face off, I think, against the very best.
I think he is, but I think another sort of fight wouldn't be against him sort of taking a fight against someone lower down than him again, like an Isaac Cruz or a Puello, for example.
But do you think there's the benefit in fighting a Pitbull, Cruz or a Puello without a world title on the line? Or would it not be more viable to just roll the dice against Dalton Smith?
Do you know what I think he's waiting for? Katie Taylor was ringside, wasn't she, on Saturday night?
She was, yes.
Croke Park, there's a lot of talks about.
Yeah,
Can you imagine Pearce O'Leary and a world title fight, Pearce O'Leary, Croke Park, on the undercard of Katie Taylor, the greatest Irish boxer of all time, some may say, as the main event, and you're fighting on the undercard for your first world title. That's what dreams are made of. And I think on Saturday night, he showed that he's got the level. He's at that level now.
Yeah,
I think it's just a matter of remaining patient, because I think when you're on that sort of cusp, that is easy to make that proper jump up to fighting a full-on world champion instead of going, right, we've done that fight. Do we go again with that similar level, or do we go straight in? Do we put all our chips towards the centre of the table? And that's what they're going to be gambling with, I think, over the coming months, because it was a fifth round stoppage by the corner, wasn't it?
It was end of the fourth retirement.
End of the fourth, fifth round, yeah. So he hasn't taken, much mileage off the clock in that fight. So he can have a couple, like a month off or something, and then come back, I don't know, in May or something, and then possibly back end of, the summer, September time.
But looking at that and that division, and obviously the name I picked out in Dalton Smith,
it's an easy...
Dalton Smith had picked up the EBU European, WBC Silver, and then the WBC World Title. Pearce O'Leary has done EBU European and the WBC International, I think it was, had an 8-rounder, and then the IBO World Title. They're both 19-0. So if you're talking about getting him ready, I think absolutely, like you said, Katie Taylor, I think, was interviewed after the 3rd round of Cacace Dickens.
Yeah.
And they and Dev said, "You're too big for this venue. Croke Park is it?" And she said, "Yeah, hopefully in the summer." So I think, like you say, if you can get Katie Taylor, for me, ideally it would be Chantel Cameron. I think that's the only, blot on the record I would like to see wronged. I don't think it will be, but that would be my choice. And then you have a Dalton Smith, because it would be a matchroom card if Katie Taylor's involved. You have Dalton Smith as the co-main against Pearce O'Leary. Him rolling the dice in his home city, in the National Stadium, I think.
Do you think Dalton Smith would take that? Because he's now
as a world title defense. Yeah,
you reckon? Throw away the opportunity of fighting at Hillsborough.
I think the chance to fight at a massive stadium like that to defend your world title. We've already seen, he went on away turf and fought Subriel Matias. I don't think he's too worried about he deserves a fight. But you know, it might even be a League One ground or by that point. So maybe he's worried about that.
Let's leave the football politics to one side.
I'm just saying. But yeah, I don't know.
Like Tottenham now, is it?
It's a lot of interesting fights to be happened. But I personally,
it's a great fight, mind that. It's a great watch.
I think it's a brilliant watch. Both men, you'd be saying which one hits harder, which one's got the better chin. I think Dalton Smith's probably technically slightly better, but I think if Pearce O'Leary gets hold of anyone, it could be, questions being asked. So, hey, there comes a point in your career where you need to roll a dice. And I think if you're an IBO world champion, you've been a European champion and you're 19-0, when's there going to be a better chance to fight for a world title?
It's true. And what a way to win a world title as well. We talk about Dalton Smith winning that world title over in New York against Sabril Matias, a sort of fighter going on away turf, and none of us in the UK really being able to watch it. Who's paying those pay-per-view prices? And he went over there and absolutely demolished him inside the distance. And then Pearce O'Leary, I think I can see it, but would I say it's next for Pearce O'Leary? I think no. I think they might hold him back a little bit more and continue to build him, because I'm not being funny, that arena was on Saturday night was there for one man only, and that was Pearce O'Leary. Yeah. Let's be honest.
He is a good ticket seller. He even brought good tickets down to London, which
So if he can do that, if they can do that again, why not do it again and see what happens? I think.
Yeah, fair enough. I can see the logic to that. I mean, I think generally this, as a card, you have to say credit to Queensbury, credit to everything involved was a brilliant sort of advertising of where Irish boxing is at the moment. You've got the likes of, I think John O'Carroll, Cole Murphy was a really high level fight. Cole Murphy looked really talented.
Close fight as well, I thought.
But John O'Carroll just used his experience to kind of draw him into a fight, I think.
Do you know what I liked about the card? I thought, when we have sort of cards over here, people sort of turn up for the main event, they come from the bars and all. Whereas on Saturday night, it felt like as soon as it went live on DAZN at 7:00, the arena seemed full. It seemed like everyone was there from the minute go to be supporting that John O'Carroll fight, which was a fantastic way to start, but then build into the evening. And I think it was brilliant that the sort of prelim cards as well that they had a lot of local talent on there, those Tom Carty's and all that. And
Bobby Flood made his debut.
Exactly. There was a heavyweight that made his debut.
Adam Olinian, who looked very good against an absolute tomato can. But to be fair, even Lee,
very nice.
Even Lee Eaton's come out on Twitter as the matchmaker and said, "Look, I got that one wrong. It was the last minute opponent, and it won the one. We'll go again," sort of thing. Gary Cully as well. I think the reason they did that is there was so much talent across the card. There was reasons as Irish boxing fans to be in that arena. There was enough, and they were scattered throughout the night for it to be worthwhile. Stephen Cairns as well. He's another one I've watched down at the York Hall, I think. Would have been on the Sam Noakes. He fought an Italian lad. I've forgotten his name now. It was the EBU European for Sam Noakes, and he was on the undercard of that one.
One that Gwyn fought, was it?
No, it wasn't him. But that was a really good performance from him, and he has a really good job on social media. He's a really talented guy. So only 23. I think, like you say, there was just a lot to get your teeth sunk into. That Olinian fight, as funny as it was while it lasted, we learned nothing from it, did we?
No, exactly. But everyone has to have
Sorry, I just keep coughing. I had a bit of a sore throat.
Oh God.
I was my girlfriend Sophie was doing a half marathon on the weekend, so shout out you for completing that. But all the chat, all the shouting,
all the shouting. It was from that. I thought you were going to say all the running then.
No, I didn't run.
No, you did nothing.
No,
you did nothing. No,
I did the real hard work.
Listen, going back to I wish I rang 2 marathons on the weekend. How about that?
Ooh, sorry.
No, I didn't. Going back, everyone has to make their debut, don't they?
Yes.
Everyone has to have that sort of first fight, and I was expecting, the sort of the build up. He was on the main card as well. How many times have, people make their debuts and we don't even see him on DAZN? So there was some hype about him. It was just disappointing, the sort of opponent, but it's good that Lee Eaton's come out and said, look, he got that wrong. And I'm not being funny. When I saw him, I thought, he looks like he should be in the crowd, front row, with a beer in his hand instead of being in the ring. So you've got to give him. Listen, you never make fun of anyone that steps into the ring, and you know, puts those gloves on. But I just feel like he should have given us more. And now the best thing about this fight, get him on that Magnificent 7 card in 2 weeks' time. Get him on that and just keep him active, because that's what you want with these sort of... he's an Olympian, isn't he? Or for
I believe
Ireland.
he was, yeah. I remember
you
when
want
they,
these
when
guys
they signed,
to be fighting all the time now. You don't want him just to be, right, the next time we're in Ireland, we'll put him on the card. He should be on the cards now, developing and, you know, fast-tracking, really. You know, that's what young pros should be doing now, is sort of fast-tracking their way through the sport and constantly being active, because that's the only way you're going to learn. You know, he learned nothing from that on Saturday night, apart from how to make a ring walk, how to, you know, show off to the crowd afterwards, sort of earing them on and all that. But I feel like, yeah, we didn't learn anything. I can't say I'm excited, because I haven't seen enough of him to go, oh, right, this guy's going to be the future of the heavyweight division. I haven't managed to say that just yet.
With that, you know, talking about, you know, an away fight that was certainly less than impressive. A man who has put British boxing on his back, you know, he's taken British boxing on the chin at times. Jordan Grannum made his 200th fight this weekend. He was his first fight on the home side of it as a 200, got the win. And I think...
What a story.
It was a lovely way to show, look, there's been plenty in this 200 that I could have come out on the winning end of. And we've, you know, he is a real tough operator.
I want to say he was a good amateur as well, Jordan Grannum, I think.
He's really, really good. He's one of those I've watched that you watch him and they're really impressive. And you know that they're not, certainly attacking wise, they're not leaving first or second gear, but they're able to tuck up. I mean, he's been stopped 3 times in 200 fights. And when you look at the 3 men that have stopped him, Niall Brown was a retirement with an eye issue. And it's Aaron McKenna and Zach Chelly, who are 2 massive punchers at middleweight. That's not a bad record. And
I'm happy that you brought this up. God, you were shouting like that.
I was,
I'm glad you brought this up, because, you know, as part of my project that I'm doing at uni, I'm doing Unsung Heroes on... Don't cry, Sam.
I'm all good. It's just
Don't cry. Unsung Heroes I'm doing it on with, you know, the away fighter, I'm calling it. And they never get the props. They never get the plaudits that they deserve. And it's good that we're bringing this up today, because it's something that I think people need to talk more about. Because you can look at his record, for example, and go, he's awful. Why would someone be supportive of that? You know, he's terrible. He's an awful fighter. But when you actually learn the ins and outs of it, he's probably, when he fights people and he's standing opposite them, he's probably better than the prospect that he's fighting. But he knows that, you know, it's just a realization of where boxing's at, particularly on the small hall show of, if you can't sell tickets, you ain't going nowhere. You know, and we've learned it from a couple of fighters that we know quite close to the channel, and who's now gone on the road for exactly that reason. You know, he could sell tickets, but what's the point when you can make double in the away corner? And I feel like with Jordan, it's, you know, fair play, 200 fights is an incredible achievement and all, but he won't get the plaudits that he deserves, because if it wasn't for fighters like him, week in, week out, because he's fighting again this weekend in Glasgow, which is mental. If it wasn't for fighters like him, you know, boxing on the small hall level, and you can make the argument that, you know, with Matchroom and Queensbury, particularly on the lower ends of the cards, boxing wouldn't be the same. Boxing wouldn't be boxing without them, you know, and I feel like people need to start looking at these away fighters and giving them a bit more respect, because I think at the end of the day, like I said, if it wasn't for them, half the shows that we've covered wouldn't have happened.
Oh God, yeah.
You know, so
if not probably a much higher percentage.
Yeah, well, and I'm a big fan of, you know, you get this random Bulgarian fella turn up who's just flown in on the Saturday morning, fights a 4-rounder, gets stopped within 2 rounds, and then flies back on the Sunday. There's so many incredible stories out there that they've got as well, and I'm assuming Jordan's probably got a cracking story to tell as well. And yeah, maybe that's something that we should do on the channel, you know, explore the roots of, you know, journeymen, the away fighters. And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a difficult thing, because it's a, I think to a point, to the sort of casual boxing fan, it is a sort of, not a taboo subject, so to speak, but you kind of, it's something people don't really talk about. And there's fighters that have got sort of padded records so that they look like good opponents and things like this. And it's all about creating these superstars as we know them. And I suppose there is an argument to, if you're good enough, you'll get there regardless. But, I absolutely think it's great that we have them. And for someone like Jordan, it's phenomenally impressive to go that many fights, that many rounds, not been stopped since 2023. And like you say, this man is active. I'd love to know the mileage that his car's clocked up down the M4, M5, M1.
I want to know how much he's on per mile.
Because, he's serious warriors. It takes a certain type of man to get in the ring, like we said. But it takes a real type of person to continually get in the ring, knowing,
and it's an art.
Your job there, absolutely, at the top level, it is.
Because for Jordan, I interviewed for the podcast. I interviewed Garth Newt, Welshman.
See, that's a journeyman I like to watch. Yeah. I love Garth.
He brings a lot, and I was talking to him, and he said it's an art. It's an art form of, we can give it to these prospects, but at the end of the day, we want to be fighting the following week, 2 weeks later. So what's the point? And I think we've seen it so many times, haven't we, when we've watched prospects coming through and the away fighter has seen that they're not anything special and they put it on them a little bit. And when it's sort of, people like Jordan and Garth, they can humble a prospect, I feel like, especially if they're there for the taking, who think, oh, I'm big time now. I sold all these tickets. I'm going to be world champion and all that. Fighting these sort of fighters, if you can't, beat these, and if they see that you're not good enough, you're more than likely they'll come for you and they'll put the pressure on and make your life a living hell. And I think I've watched Jordan a couple of times. I want to say he's been down. He's
been on plenty. Yeah.
So you know what you get with some journeymen, but I think with Jordan and especially Garth turns up every fight night to win. I said that to him. What's your plan? Do you, answer this honestly? Do you turn up to just get through the rounds, or do you turn up to win? And he said, I've turned up every single time to win. And I think that's it's what makes boxing. And I think that's what is so unique about boxing, is that you can have someone with 200 fights. Is it 178 losses that he's had?
Yeah.
But probably be one of the sort of people that you look up to in that sort of small hall where you go, that's a bloke there that is, probably the hardest man in the room.
Oh, without a doubt.
You wouldn't want to mess with him.
God, no.
Would not want to mess with him.
No. So if anyone's watching, obviously, big up to Jordan. He deserves all the love. And all the journeymen that make it all happen.
Journeyman or away fighter? That's the question I'm trying to...
Journey them, as we go, if we're being
but I'm trying to ask the
neutral.
question of whether they want to be called journeymen or away fighters, and I got a pretty good answer off Garth for that.
Did you? I always see it as two different things. I think an away fighter is somebody who turns up and fights, often loses, might get stopped. I think a journeyman is someone who goes in there and never gets stopped. I think for me, Jordan Grannum, I would say, is a journeyman. I don't know. I'm not going to give a name, but somebody who just kind of turns up and fights. That's an away fighter in my eyes.
That's what my podcast is called, The Away Fighter.
That's it. Well, there we go.
Because I feel like it's a little bit disrespectful calling some of them journeyman.
Giving yourself a little bit of a promo there. I respect
it. Coming soon.
So to sort of wrap it up, circle back round. Anto Cacace, you want the Ryan Garner fight?
Yeah. I think it makes the most sense for Cacace in the summer, and then go over to America perhaps later in the year or early next year.
Fair enough. I think go straight for the big prize. I think he cleaned out enough of our British talent.
Leave the British division alone.
Let us have one.
Fight Garner and then go off and do your own thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're saying Pearce O'Leary, one more before you roll the dice.
Yes.
I'm saying get it rolling.
Normally I'm the person
get the
that
one
says
going.
Chuck him straight in now, but I'm sort of maturing a little bit now and sitting back.
Whereas I'm just thinking, I've just seen him, and I think he's been at that level for long enough now where I think, if you're not ready now, when are you ever going to be ready? True. So, roll the dice for me. If you guys like the sound of that or anything that we said or nothing that we've said, feel free to subscribe, follow us on Spotify. We'll be back later in the week to preview a little Matchroom doubleheader. You've got Adames and Amo Williams, which was delayed, I believe, and pushed back. And then you've got a really nice card full of talent. You got Visioli, Bevan, and then Lidard, Tyler Denny on the main event, which is a really cracker. Great fight. So if you like the sound of that, you want to see what we think about those fights, then obviously subscribe or just double check back on the channel later on in the week, and we'll see you all on Thursday.
Punches chance. Punches Chance Podcast.